in different directions. Dallas in the playoff mix, coming off their bye week and sitting at 6-2 with former Packers coach Mike McCarthy leading them. Green Bay has lost 5 straight to fall 3-6 on the year. It's made for some trying times inside Lambeau Field for Coach Matt LaFleur.
It's easy when you're winning. But when you're not winning, it gets tough, and it can reveal a lot of things. So I think it's just important for our team to stay together and really look inward. Everybody accountable to one another and trying to do the best they can.
It'll be the Packers and Cowboys on Sunday at 3:25. Turning to the Badgers, they're gearing up for the first of 3 trophy games to end their season. Game 1 this Saturday against Iowa. Two favorites to win the Big Ten West entering the year have struggled at times, but both seem to be finding their way of late. Badgers have won 3 of their last 4 games. Iowa has won 2 in a row, as I'm both sitting a game back of Illinois for first place in the division. Kick on Saturday is set for 2:30.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
Hey to those of you over on the Bud Light live stream.
The Bucs are in Oklahoma City.
Far today.
Take on
We're about ready to go live
night.
here
Milwaukee
on
lost for the first time
our
this
Wednesday
season
night
last
huddle.
night
We are live
in
in
Atlanta.
see out at
and after winning their opener
Sunset
last night, the Badgers now prepping for their game against Stanford on Friday at American Family Field as part of the Bruce City Battle.
Pewaukee.
With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil-Print.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Good evening and welcome. We are broadcasting live. We are here at the Sunset Grill in Pewaukee, which is where you can find us. And the outside, I'll tell you this, it was, I don't know if you can see it through the window because if you're following us on the Bud Light live stream, you get a little bit of it out there, but you don't get nearly what it looks like. It's beautiful, beautiful night tonight. Out via the beach right in front, and then obviously the docks and such. But a good crowd in here tonight. And thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks for everybody watching on the Bud Light live stream. You can follow us in many different facets over on Twitter at Bill_Michaels. At Bill_Michaels. You can follow us on the Facebook fan page. Go to Facebook.com/The Bill Michaels Show. You can also track us down on YouTube. Love it when you subscribe over there. If you go to YouTube.com/Bill Michaels Show. You can find us there. You can find us on Twitch TV. We've got some followers on Twitch. If you download the app, you can track us down. Same thing, Bill Michaels Show. And good stuff tonight. So the Packers made a move, believe it or not. Now, they didn't pick up a wide receiver, but the Packers claimed the safety, Jonathan Abram, from the Las Vegas Raiders today. A former first-round pick. He was reportedly on the trade block at the trade deadline this year, but the Raiders couldn't find a team willing to give up a draft pick for him, so they cut him loose. He was originally drafted 27th overall back in 2019, but had his rookie season cut short with a torn rotator cuff and then a labrum, which occurred during the season opener during the Raiders' career. He started 36 games in which he was available to play and recorded 225 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 12 pass breakups, 3 picks. The 2 non-starts for the safety came in the last 2 weeks when he was a scratch. So maybe greener pastures. Maybe, who knows, maybe Joe Barry coaches him up. I don't know. But nevertheless, the Packers did make a move today, and they picked up Jonathan Abram. So good to have you today. The Packers back at it. Mike McCarthy's company coming in with the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones going to be wandering the halls of Lambeau Field, which, again, and I've told the story 100 times, so I apologize if you've heard it, but going back to when Lambeau Field was first renovated and before Texas Stadium was demolished, the Cowboys, Jerry Jones and company, were looking as to what to do for their stadium, which is AT&T Stadium down in Dallas, and he took a lot of, obviously what the Packers had in the newly renovated Lambeau Field, expounded upon it magnanimously, and he ended up building obviously AT&T Stadium, but he wanted a really nice Hall of Fame in there, just like the Packers have. He put one in. He wanted a really nice concourse and a multi-purpose building to be able to be used for everything from weddings and conferences and receptions and such. And it's exactly what they did. He wanted to go down, so he put suites on the ground. He liked the fact that Packers fans were right next to the field and almost on the field, so he wanted to put the suites on the field and then in the ground because of that. So anyway, Jerry Jones and company coming into Lambeau Field. Dallas Cowboys 5-point favorites in this one. 5-point favorites in this one. I tell you what, I don't know if the sun shines on the Green Bay Packers or not, but that might be a little bit of a short margin, to be honest with you. Chuck, they couldn't find a draft pick for him. Nobody tells you a little something about Abram. You know, sometimes you don't want to give up a draft choice if you know he's going to be on the open market. And if he clears waivers, then, you know, obviously if he gets to your team, then you could pick him up for free. I think if the Packers had not gotten him, he might have been picked up by somebody else. But the Packers high right now because of their record, so that's the reason they obviously, you know, had a chance to grab him. But the Packers making that move today. Packers getting back at it on the practice field today. A lot of guys missing practice, including Aaron Rodgers and company. You know, David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, Aaron Jones. The good news was he was back at practice today, so that was good news for Aaron Jones in that he was there. Christian Watson looks as if, because he's listed with a concussion in the protocol, but because he didn't really sustain a head injury, you couldn't just figure out what to put him in, so they put him. He's listed as that, but Matt LaFleur was pretty emphatic in saying he didn't have a concussion. So now that's good news, obviously, that they pulled him out of that game, and that means another week, and you know he should be clear and good to go come Sunday. And they're going to need him. They're going to need him big time. Romeo Doubs, obviously, with an injury, and you still got Eric Stokes in the backfield with an injury. You got guys banged up all over the place. So you're going to need all hands on deck for this one. You know, who knows what David Bakhtiari is going to be able to do. Hopefully he can continue to go and continue to work himself back into full-time shape. We don't know. But I think this game, you go back to this last contest, right? You go back to what we witnessed last week. And you kind of look at it and say, okay, there were a lot of mistakes. The majority of really detrimental mistakes were made by Aaron Rodgers. It was one of the worst games I'd ever seen him play. Even though, and I know, look, a lot of you really had some issue with what Aaron Rodgers had to say in the Pat McAfee show today, kind of deflecting blame. He took blame. He said, look, he's been on it again and again and again. He said, I didn't play well. Missed some passes. I played bad, is the way he put it. Well, let's put it this way. He used a couple of other adjectives to describe the way he played. But I think we can all look at this and say, Aaron Rodgers played bad. There's problems, defensively speaking, that continually crop up. The offensive line continues to have misses. You know, I think I don't even know what we're looking for this week. To be honest, I don't know what we're looking for this week. I don't know if we're looking for good play. I don't know if we're looking for a win. I don't know if we're looking for same old, and maybe a blowout. What are you looking for this week? What are you looking for this week? Rick says, if I was a betting man, I'd take the Cowboys in the 5 points. That spread is too low, I'm sorry to say. Brian says, never mind. He's responding in the Bud Light live stream to others. This one's from Mac. Mac says, what I'm looking for this week is just better play. So many mistakes, so many bad errors, so many mental problems. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is making a statement for not getting him any good wide receivers? I can't imagine it. I'm not throwing it completely out of the realm of possibility, okay? But I can't imagine that Rodgers is just, he's too competitive. And God knows he doesn't want, statistically speaking, he doesn't want to tarnish himself. So he's not throwing games, if that's what you're insinuating, that he's just throwing it away. But, Aaron Rodgers did play poorly. He did play poorly. You watched Aaron Rodgers this past weekend, And he's always sharp, right? He's always on the money. He throws into windows nobody else can throw into. He's always been extremely precise with the football. I don't know. I have a feeling. This is my sense. I have a feeling that when really he has to put that zip, that touch, that feel, that whatever it happens to be on the ball, there are just times that it just comes off the thumb poorly. And I don't want to use that as an excuse, but I'm going to use it as an excuse. I think there's times when he throws it and it just comes out of his hand really well. And then there's times where he's off balance, he's on the run, he's moving, he's trying to throw in a different, arm release, pivot point, whatever, and it comes off the thumb rather badly. I would never, ever, ever see, if you had to tell me that, first of all, the play to David Bakhtiari, if it works, it's ingenious. It's unbelievably brilliant. Because it didn't, it's stupid. What are you running a guy out there with a bum knee? The pass was off balance. I mean, all the different stuff. Because it didn't work, it was really ugly. However, bear with me a minute. Rodgers backpedaling, looks over to his left, sees David Bakhtiari, and would you ever, if you saw David Bakhtiari wide open in the end zone, do you ever think Aaron Rodgers would underthrow him to the point that the ball would be picked? You know what I mean? I just would never in a million years pick that. Never in a million years. Which is why I've got to think that he's got something going on with the thumb that at times it's strong, it feels good, it's just in rhythm, it just a certain release, a certain, arm angle, a certain pivot point, it comes off the hand well. And then there's times where he's moving, he's running around, he's off balance, he brings his arm release point down or something, and he tries to sling it, and it just doesn't come off the thumb right, and it wobbles, and it falls short. It just doesn't have the same zip on it. That's the only thing I can possibly go with. Otherwise, the alternate theory is that he's lost it, and I don't believe that. Not that fast. Not in that sense. I can't believe that he's just lost it, 877-867-1670. We're going to hear from Aaron Rodgers coming up here in a couple of minutes, so stay tuned for that. John says, I'd like to see better play in the first half, and when it would be great to actually see some halftime adjustments by the coaching staff. This one's from Marty. Marty says, I want to see them play well in the first half and then come out in the second half and put their heel on the throat of the Dallas Cowboys and continue to pour it on. They haven't played a full game all season long. Marty, you're right. I just want to see them get off to a fast start. Just look good. Early this season, there were times they just went right down the field. They scored. They looked really good. And you're thinking to yourself, this is awesome. And then for whatever reason, the second half just completely gets frittered away. And we've seen that happen time and again. And then now we're to the point where they just come out and they just look bad throughout the entire game, for lack of a better term. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear from Aaron Rodgers, who spoke with the media after practice today. And we all heard his comments yesterday with Pat McAfee. We're going to hear what he has to say, a little bit of it anyway, today when he met with the media. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, Grant Bilse is going to join us here about 6:30 Central. Then after the top of the next hour, Mike Clemens is going to be here for a couple of segments. We'll talk to Mike about what he sees regarding this team and what he heard in the locker room today. We obviously are going to take a look around the rest of the NFL and some news out of the Commanders camp, which to me, quite frankly, is just embarrassing. They need to sell that team as quick as possible and just get the hell away from the NFL. But they posted a statement today and just thought, oh, my God, this is just one of the dumbest things. Just one of the dumbest things. After today, out in D.C., the Attorney General said they're going to have an announcement tomorrow at 11 o'clock Central Time regarding the Commanders. So we all hold our breath, and we can't wait with popcorn in our hands for that to get underway. Okay, let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. We're broadcasting live. Sunset Grill here in Pewaukee. Really good crowd on hand tonight. Really good. And I think there's just one table right here in front of me that's left. That's it. Everything else completely filled. Good food, great pizzas, great buffalo chicken they have out here. They have a buffalo chicken salad that's really, really good. But they've got good burgers and just you name it. A lot of Bud Light specials going in the house tonight. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Zoom in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show continues on. We are broadcasting live. We're at Sunset Grill in Pewaukee, brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Real quick before we get to Aaron Rodgers, I'm watching other people in the NFL, other reporters, blue checkmark people over on Twitter, question this. But this is what was put out, at least reported, by the Washington Commanders, by many that follow the team. They say, John Keim of ESPN, covering Washington, he put this out and said, this is from the Commanders spokesperson regarding the Attorney General and the press conference tomorrow. Quote, now get this, less than 3 months ago, a 23-year-old player on our team was shot multiple times in broad daylight. Despite the out-of-control violent crime in D.C., today, the Washington Commanders learned for the first time on Twitter that the D.C. Attorney General will be holding a press conference to make a major announcement related to the organization tomorrow. The Commanders have fully cooperated with the AG's investigation for nearly a year. As recently as Monday, a lawyer from the team met with the AG, who did not suggest that at this time he intended to take any action and, in fact, revealed fundamental misunderstandings of the underlying facts. It is unfortunate that in his final days in office, Mr. Racine appears more interested in making splashy headlines based on offbeat legal theories rather than doing the hard work of making the streets safe for our citizens, including bringing to justice the people who shot one of our players. Wow. You talk about self-serving crap. Holy moly. So in other words, you got better things to do than come after us on a bunch of theories. But tomorrow, as we all sit back with our popcorn in hand, we're waiting to see what is going to come out of the D.C. Attorney General tomorrow as they talk about the Washington Commanders in general. I just needed to bring that to you because there's more and more people that are going, there's no way. You couldn't have put this out if you're the Commanders, and they did. They just can't sell that team fast enough and get the hell away. It's just, man, oh, man, oh, man. 877-867-1671. Hit us up, do so. Aaron Rodgers met with the media just a little while ago, earlier this afternoon. Take a listen to what the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers had to say.
Go. Aaron, you told Matt some great stories yesterday about Mike. What's the one thing that you'll kind of always think about when you think about him? There's a lot of things. Getting sized the night before the Super Bowl will always be a special memory. That whole night, we delayed the team meeting, 15 minutes or so, because a couple guys were on the piano playing some songs. You just kind of felt that moment was special, and I appreciated us delaying things and allowing that moment to exist, and then getting sized for your ring, just the confidence that we had and what that kind of statement meant was always really special. Mike and I started meeting Thursdays after practice for many, many years, but like in 2009 or 10, I think it was, and those were always fun. Those could go 30 minutes or 4 hours. Just start getting into story time, and it just bonded us, I think, over conversations, and I always appreciated that. I have a lot of gratitude for the off seasons that we went through. Now it was long. It was obviously the rules are a little bit different, but that helped me become a better player, and I'll always be really thankful for that time, and especially those early off seasons.
You both talked about how you communicated recently. When did y'all start kind of rejuvenating that relationship, that start communicating a little bit more, or did that happen?
We're both busy people with our schedules, and obviously he has a lot of family commitments during the off season. But we've always kind of been in touch a little bit more, I'd say, the last year or so. I think as time goes by, the gratitude for that time as you look back on the journey of your career is goes up a little bit, and you appreciate the little things a little bit more, because really this game and life is about the journey, and I'll always be him because of the connection that we had and the years we spent together. Obviously my longest tenured coach, longest tenured play caller. Thankful for those years, and thankful maybe a little bit more as the years go by.
You spent 13 years with someone. That's a long time with anyone. Talk about the gratitude. Was the gratitude when you're so close to the person maybe harder to see when that relationship ended than it is now with the benefit of hindsight?
Well, I think, Ryan, it's probably normal in any relationship that you have. When you're able to take time away and you have that separation, it's natural to look back and have a greater sense of appreciation and gratitude and thankfulness for that time. I think comparison is definitely the enemy of joy. This to that, I don't think that's fair to anybody involved, but I think it's normal, to think about the things that you really loved about that relationship or that style or that program, and just contemplate how special some of those moments were, how the journey was really the most important thing, and the ups and downs. Thankful for the incredible moments, the highs that we had, and there were many of them, and thankful for the low moments too, because it gives you perspective on life. Life is not all about the beautiful ups. It's the downs that you learn the most lessons in, I think.
Micah Parsons had 2 requests when he talked today. He said he wants to switch jerseys with you, and also that he doesn't want to be chipped. What's the likelihood of each of those happening?
Probably pretty strong on the jersey swap. Probably not as strong on the other part.
Aaron, when you look at your series with the Cowboys over the years, the memories you made in the playoffs and the regular season, how would you characterize that, and what will it mean to compete against Mike in this series?
Well, not competing against Mike's team, but a lot of good memories in that stadium. This is obviously going to be a different stadium, but a lot of good memories down at that stadium. Obviously, in Dallas in general, my first extended time playing down there on the old Crown Field was really special. And some great memories over the years, especially in the playoffs against those guys. Even a great memory when I wasn't playing. We were down 26-3 at halftime, and Flenny led us back on an incredible comeback. I remember the celebration in the locker room, especially the late Kevin Green. Dancing is a great gift of that somewhere, I'm sure. That was a special moment for us. But I grew up a huge fan of the league, and Niners-Cowboys was a big-time rivalry, so I obviously grew up a Niner fan. And then as a lot of my favorite players transitioned, Green Bay and Dallas had a great rivalry over the years, and it's fun to still be a part of this and to have some great memories against that team over the years.
How many defensive players in the league can do what Parsons does in terms of from a couple different spots and still be as effective at each one?
I don't know if there's anybody. I think Dan does a great job of using him. They have a lot of different personnel packages. He's on the line of scrimmage in some of them. He's off the ball, drops in coverage. But he's got a lot of things that you just can't coach. I mean, you can emphasize, but the effort that he plays with is incredible. And he's made some incredible effort plays where he's way out of the play. There's a play against the Lions. He's way out of the play on the backside, and he runs the guy down and stops him on the one. And the next play, they get a fumble and kind of turn that game around where they could have been behind after that play. And instead, they're getting the ball there, and it's a whole different ball game because he never gave up on the play and tackled the guy inside the 1 yard line. And there's been multiple high effort plays by him. I remember watching a little bit of the Hard Knocks that they had, and I liked his disposition. I liked how coachable that he was, and you knew he was going to be a player just by the way they were talking about him and the stuff you saw in practice. But he is definitely a one of one in this league. I don't know if there's anybody that's doing as many things as they're asking him to do.
Mike shed a few tears this week at his press conference. Is that different than the old Mike that you knew? Would he have ever done that, or did he get emotional when he was around you?
Oh, he definitely did. Yeah, Mike's Pittsburgh toughness and grit on the outside, and big soft teddy bear on the inside. And I think that's a great combination to have. But there were definitely some tears over the years, both in team settings and also some one-on-one settings. Him and I definitely shed some tears over the years together in conversations. Usually happy tears, I would say. But, yeah, Mike's a big-hearted guy, and I'd like to see him let the emotions come out.
What's the most memorable time that you guys maybe had some waterworks together?
There were a lot of real private conversations that we had over the years that I just appreciated his honesty in some of those moments. We had a really memorable time 2013 on Christmas, actually. I hit him up in the afternoon and said, hey, once things are winding down with the kids, I'd like to come over and have a conversation with you. And so I went over. I think he had a couple Iron Cities. I can't remember exactly. I might have had one just to, make him not drink alone, but I wasn't ever really an Iron City guy. But we had a long conversation about my desire to play in the following week against Chicago. And that was a really memorable conversation. Obviously, it's Christmas, and that has a whole, myriad of emotions it brings into it. But that time and that conversation is always one that stands out for me.
Mike has said over the years, he said again this week, that the exit didn't sit well with him. He said it left a dent in his family. I'm curious, how did the exit
What happened on my birthday, for one, which was really strange. We came off a bad loss. I mean, we weren't a great team that year, but bad loss against a bad football team at home. Everybody was already down about that. A full house of people, trying to put on a birthday party for me, and that was a really strange night for sure. When something like that happens and it's so jarring, there's a state of shock that happens that I think kind of stuck with me for a while. I remember specifically there was a morning. One of the strangest parts about the whole thing was there was a morning like 7:30, and I'm coming in the stadium off the freeway, and I'm on Lombardi at Ridge, and I look over to the left, and I see Mike in his truck. And it was a really weird feeling because it was one of the first times where it really, really sunk in. Like, man, he's not the head coach anymore. I'm thankful for what Joe did. Joe brought him in to talk to the team after his firing. And I thought that was a special moment for him to have some closure and for us to be able to hear from him. I remember when Mike Sherman was fired after 05, how strange that was to have him come in and address the team, but just how probably some.
There you go. That's Aaron Rodgers. Good stuff. Rodgers talking to the media. So there you go. That's Aaron Rodgers after talking to the media a little bit earlier today. Here's one thing for you, and I wanted to get back to this. Chuck said, did Rodgers say that they got size for the rings the night before the Super Bowl? Is that confidence or normal? That's normal procedure, because that's the last time everybody's going to be together. So when you go to the Super Bowl, because your rings don't come until the following, season. So that's the last time everybody's really going to be together as a team for team meetings and such. And yes, and sometimes, you know what, they do it to kind of inspire you to say, hey, we're getting the rings. We're here. It's a work thing. We're here to get it. But the Packers chose to do that. Everybody got sized. So yes, it was something they did the night before. So there you go. Let's do this when we come back. I'm going to talk with Grant Bilse. He's going to be joining us from the Wisco Sports Show. That's coming up. We are broadcasting live out here at Sunset Grill in Pewaukee. Good crowd tonight. Really good crowd tonight, as a matter of fact. So thanks to everybody for showing up tonight and hanging out with us a little while. And, there's a little bit of, if you're watching on the Bud Light live stream, you can see a little bit out back, the docks and such. It's just a dark night via the lake. But it's awesome tonight. It's a beautiful weather night here at Sunset Grill out in Pewaukee. We got more coming up right after this.
Let we go. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Thank you. Welcome back to the program, the Bill Michaels Huddle. We are broadcasting live. We are here in Pewaukee at Sunset Grill in Pewaukee, as a matter of fact. And we are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. You see the wind blowing outside. If you're watching on the Bud Light live stream, beautiful right there where the docks kind of meet the water and the land and the patio and such. But here inside this place, nice crowd on hand. So that being said, we bring in now our buddy Grant Bilse from the Wisco Sports Show. Grant, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
I'm doing good, Bill. I'm a little jealous that you're out having fun on the town, and I'm still in here in studio. But I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing good. I wanted to ask you, let's start off with, what are you looking for in this contest coming up?
Oh, man. A respectable performance. Like, we haven't had a respectable performance the last couple of weeks. Like, give me something I can wrap my arms around. There have been no redeeming qualities about this team, Bill. I was talking about this on my show tonight. Like, the synergy stinks. The players don't seem to be meshing with each other. I think they're butting heads in a lot of ways. So that's not working. They're getting more injured. So that's not a good thing. They don't have any good pass catchers. Their running backs, especially A.J. Dillon, are underperforming. Their offensive line gets more confusing every week. Their defense seems to regress every week and get hurt more every week. And now Rashawn Gary is done. So I guess I'm looking for this weekend. Give me one redeeming quality on the season. That might not even be a win, but like make me feel good about a rookie. Like let's see Devontae Wyatt pop, or let's see Pewaukee play really well, or I don't know. Give me one redeeming quality this weekend. That's all I ask for, because up until this point in the season, we really haven't had a redeeming quality yet.
Yeah, I know Matt LaFleur on his program tonight, television-wise, was talking about the mistakes, and if they could just erase the mistakes, the turnovers, the penalties. How good do you think this team is if they erase the mistakes?
Well, I mean, they're better than 3-6. They're probably a 500 team. They just don't really have high-end talent anywhere on offense. And it's not to say that they should be scoring 9 points in Detroit, but Romeo Doubs has shown nice flashes, but he's a rookie, and rookies really can't be consistent contributors, or at least rookies taken in the fourth round. They can't do it every week. Right? A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, it just seems like they can't really find a rhythm. They just don't have a lot of firepower on offense, and Aaron Rodgers is playing very poorly. So, you can cut out the mistakes, and they'll be able to beat the they're not going to be much better than that. They're just going to be an average team, but they've been way worse than average because of those sloppy mistakes, like you said, and like Matt LaFleur has talked about.
The team itself, defensively speaking, let's go over there. With all the injuries, what do you expect this weekend? Because this is going to be a different look. No Rashawn Gary. They're banged up in the secondary. They've got the middle of that line, or the linebacking core kind of eaten up. You're relying on the young guys. You're bringing a new guy in Abram in. How different is this going to look? And I guess go with the defense. What are you going to expect there?
Well, luckily the Cowboys aren't a juggernaut on offense. I know they hung a lot of points on the Bears, but the Bears defense has kind of been collapsing over the last couple of weeks as that team transitions to the future and kind of lets go of some of their great players right now and starts building for the future. What's frustrating, Bill, is the Cowboys don't have an elite offense. The Cowboys are really the team that we wanted the Packers to be this year, where the offense would have some good games. Like the Cowboys hung 49 on the Bears. And played really well. And they've had some nice weeks offensively, but they've given up 19, 17, 16, 10, 26 to Philly, 6 points, and then 29 against the Bears when they scored 50 2 Sundays ago. The Cowboys are the team that we thought the Packers would be this year. Like, yeah, the offense would have its moments, but by and large, the defense is going to be great. You're going to play through your elite edge rusher. For them, it's Micah Parsons. For the Packers, it was supposed to be Rashawn Gary. You're supposed to have, like, a playmaker on the edge like Trevon Diggs, who's going to make big plays. And we wanted that to be Jair Alexander. Like, the Cowboys are the team that the Packers were supposed to be. And the Cowboys are just doing it better. I guess I don't know what we're supposed to expect from the defense now, because now we're going to probably have Darnell Savage playing out of position. We're going to have Preston Smith and Igbare at edge rusher, and Rashawn Gary's obviously a huge loss. So I don't know what to expect from the defense. I'm looking for any redeeming qualities, Bill. I don't see the defense getting any better over the course of the season, and they haven't been good enough up until this point. They haven't been able to cut the mustard or meet the high expectations so far. I don't see why that would change this weekend.
Rasul Douglas said today that he said, we're losing because we've been losing. We suck because we suck, and it has nothing to do with London. Kind of going back to that point in time. I don't think it has anything to do with London, but it sounds like he's being very honest, very frank, and very emphatic that this team, for whatever reason, just doesn't have the ability or what have you to be able to turn it around. What did you make of the statement?
I think that statement lines up with a lot of the little breadcrumbs that we've seen the last 2 weeks or so. Like, I think Pete Pewaukee, who I know has been on your show, reported or just talked about on his podcast 2 weeks ago that there were individuals in the Packers locker room that were upset by some comments that Rodgers made, and they didn't appreciate being scapegoated as the reason why this offense is bad. That was confirmed this week by Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano of ESPN. I just think there are members of the Packers locker room that don't appreciate how public perception has pinned the Packers' struggles on them. I saw the clip. You probably saw it, the one that TJ Lang retweeted. The play at the goal line where Elton Jenkins and David Bakhtiari clear out their guys. The ball was supposed to go to A.J. Dillon. Instead, it gets thrown over the head of Sammy Watkins. David Bakhtiari turns around and looks confused. Elton Jenkins turns around and looks straight up pissed. He looks fed up. I think there are players in this locker room that are fed up with the current state of affairs. And part of that is Aaron Rodgers, right? This season's been about him and, his playing time and his connection with a coach. And now we're talking this week, like McCarthy's coming to town, right? And this is going to be an emotional game for Rodgers. I've got a bunch of members of the Packers locker room saying, I don't care about Mike McCarthy. I didn't play here when he was here. I have no connection to this, but yet it's another week where we're talking about Aaron Rodgers and we're hearing all about him. I just think there's probably some disconnect in this locker room, and I think Rasul Douglas is kind of highlighting that. He's saying, yeah, we suck, and I'm sick of it. And it's the same thing every week, and it hasn't changed, and it's not changing, and I think these guys are getting sick of each other, and I think this is going to get worse before it gets better, Bill.
Do you think the problem is Rodgers?
No, not entirely, but he's not the solution. Like, I know a lot of Packers fans this weekend are saying, well, a couple of those interceptions are unlucky, like the one bounced off the helmet. Well, don't throw it off the dude's helmet. You know what I mean? Like, Rodgers' one throw is behind. He hasn't been sharp. I know Rodgers doesn't have a lot of help, and I know the defense hasn't been up to hang more than 10 points in Detroit against the historically bad pass defense. I don't think Rodgers is the problem in the sense that if they put in Jordan Love, they would be any better. No. Because I think if you say Rodgers is the problem, it would imply that there's some solution. And I don't think there's a solution. They've created a team that has a very small margin for error, and the defense has not been up to snuff. And that small margin of error, right, has led Rodgers to need to play really well. And Rodgers hasn't played really well. He's actually played really, really poorly. And the comments on McAfee and some of the other things that have kind of happened throughout the year, I think have really irked others in the locker room. And I think we're seeing that bubble up. No, I don't think Rodgers is the problem. But this season, he's been needed to be the solution, and he's been anything but the solution.
Do you think that we are going to find that there are, come the offseason, that there are problems? There are innate problems. I know that former players have talked about, calling guys out in the media. Even though he's not naming names, guys inside the locker room know exactly who he's talking about. And now he's kind of semi-quote making it public. Rodgers has defended himself by saying, I'm not naming anybody. I'm just saying we got to play better. And that, certain guys, if they continue to make mistakes, they shouldn't see the rest. Well, guys in that locker room know that. And now he's the guy that made more than a few mistakes. Not that you're going to sit him, but you get what I mean. Do you find that other people in that locker room are starting to take offense to some of the things that have been said?
Oh, yeah, totally. And I think this goes even back to last year, right, with the last dance. I bet there were a lot of players, and this isn't sourced. I don't have connections, right? I just watch it. But I bet there were players in the locker room last year when we're talking about the last dance, right? And Devontae Adams is back for one last ride, and we're going to do it for. There had to be guys on the team last year who were like, I don't care about this last dance. I don't care. Like, I'm just starting my career. I'm trying to get a contract. I'm not even that close with Rodgers. I'm new in the league, or I just came here for 1 year and signed a 1-year contract. Like, I just think last year the messaging again all about Rodgers and what's up with him, and I think that wears on the locker room. And now we're seeing it this season too. Like. It started with Pewaukee, like I said. It was reported this week by Graziano and Fowler. And just some of the body language and even the Rasul Douglas cut that you mentioned, and I just heard on your show earlier today, Bill, like Rasul Douglas is annoyed. He's not the only one in this locker room. Absolutely. And by the way, with the young wide receivers and Romeo Doubs, I don't think it's all Rodgers' fault that Romeo have been scapegoated. I think when the mainstream sports media talks about the Packers, the consensus is, and the summary is when we talk about them, well, they got kids playing wide receiver. Well, for Dobbs, that's true. He's out there going through mistakes and learning on the fly, but Watson has been hurt all year. And Watkins and Cobb and Lazard, they're not young, and they've been less trustworthy, and they've been worse players in my estimation this year than Romeo Doubs has been. So if I'm Romeo Doubs, the problem with the Packers offense, or so everyone says, is the rookie wide receivers, but I don't really think that's fair. So I'm not even fully blaming Rodgers, but yeah, I think there's lots of members of this locker room that are frustrated with each other, and we're just now only starting to see it bubble up. And I think it's going to get a lot worse as the season goes along.
All right, let me ask you this before I let you go. Do the Packers have the capability to shock the world and get a win on Sunday?
Yeah, because I think weirdly Rodgers plays like motivated and could throw 5 touchdowns to stomp Mike McCarthy, because that's something that might be really important to him. I also, Bill, I've been on your show the last 3 weeks, and I've picked the Packers every time, and I'm done. I'm not picking the Packers again this year until I see something change, because it's been the same issues every weekend. They weren't able to get right against the Detroit Lions, who are historically bad on defense. The Dallas Cowboys are great, and they're coming off a bye. And this is a team that is everything the Packers aren't. Their defense is living up to expectations. Their offense is avoiding mistakes, right? And they have the correct mojo and the correct energy to support each other and play together in the right way and maximize their talent. And their defensive players love Dan Quinn. And Mike McCarthy has them because they played through adversity with Super Rush. This Packers team can't play through adversity. They're not living up to expectations. The chemistry isn't good. Nothing's good about the Packers. Everything's good about the Cowboys. So, well, I think the Packers could win. Yeah, there's no way in hell that I'm going to pick them.
Always good, my friend. Thanks, Grant. We appreciate it, and we'll talk again next week, okay?
Yeah, thanks, Bill, for the time as always. Have a great week and a great weekend.
Appreciate it, bud. There you go. That's our buddy Grant Bilse joining us for a couple of minutes. You can find him over at the Grant Bilse over on at Wisco Grant on Twitter, by the way, the Wisco Sports Show at Wisco Grant over on Twitter if you want to find his stuff there. So thanks to him for joining us for a couple of minutes. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. We are broadcasting live. We are here in the Pewaukee Lake area. We're on Pewaukee Lake, as a matter of fact. We're at Sunset Grill, Pewaukee. So if you want to swing by, there's still another hour, 10 minutes to go before we get out of here tonight. They have some really good Bud Light specials, and the crowd tonight, obviously really good, as a matter of fact. So if you want to come out, you want to hang out for a little bit, you want to get some good food, you want to get some good beverages, some good specials. They got the Bucks game up that's going to get ready to go on the TV coming up here shortly. They've got the Larry McCarran and Matt LaFleur show on the other tube. They've got some other basketball, some motorsports on as well. So plenty of TVs if you want to come in and check it out, or maybe just take a load off and have a beverage. Good stuff. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle, brought to you by our friends at Bud Lights, coming up right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Certainly appreciate it. Glad you're hanging out with us tonight, whether it's listening to us over the air or watching us on the Bud Light live stream, which you can do if you choose to follow us and subscribe over on, say, YouTube. You can find us on Twitch TV. You can follow me over on Twitter at Bill_Michaels. How about on the Facebook fan page even? You can do that at Facebook.com/The Bill Michaels Show. You can find us over there as well. This was from Gary. Gary says, no way Aaron Rodgers is all to blame. I think there's some jealousy going on inside the locker room. You know, it's interesting because it was Jeremy Fowler that tweeted out some of this information that said, hey, there's some guys in there that, you know, they've kind of had it with being called out in the media. You know, and again, Rodgers didn't use any names. Now, when you're behind closed doors and you're looking at the film, you know who he's talking about. You know, guys inside that locker room know. So what he says goes a long way inside that locker room. Now, whether you think you're cracking the whip and you're letting your guys inside the locker room know, and, you know, again, going back to this past game, in Detroit, where it looked like Bakhtiari was looking at him like, what are you doing? And then it looked like Elton Jenkins was mad. We talked about this, that, time and again, Matt LaFleur has stated that when Aaron Rodgers goes to the line of scrimmage with a play, it is one play with two options, usually a run or a pass, depending on what he sees in the matchup that he sees. So when you look at that and you say, if he's got that option, well, then maybe what you need to do if you're Matt LaFleur is take that option away. If it's becoming problematic where Aaron wants to throw the ball, then maybe you take that option away. Beyond that, I don't know what to do. And the other problem here, and this seems to be starting to permeate throughout the media, that, there's not a problem between Rodgers and Matt LaFleur, but maybe there's a problem Matt LaFleur that he has with Aaron Rodgers. He just doesn't have the ability anymore to correct it. He doesn't have the ability to say, hey, we're going to rein this in, because he spent so much time building this relationship in which it was going to be this 50-50, give and take and input and all that now, as the old adage goes, my dad used to say it up on the farm, you can't put the blank back in the horse. You've already let that out of the bag. So if you start going and tightening the reins now, Rodgers is going to buck and buck hard. So I don't believe that I don't believe things are as bad as that they're starting to leak out to be, but there's something there. I'll agree with that. I've always said whenever something like this comes up, where there's smoke, there's fire. The team has been pushed around this year. It's not a tough team. It's not a mentally tough team. We've seen them in the last couple of playoff games in which they get down or they get punched in the face. They don't have the ability to come back. They don't have that killer instinct when they do get up. They haven't been a killer instinct team in a long, 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 long time. So have they become soft because of leadership? And you would assume that leadership is also a part of that, and that's Aaron Rodgers as well. I'm not blaming it all on him, of course, but he's a part of leadership, whether it's coaching, whether it's players on that team, guys that say, hey, look, this is what we need to do, including myself. But, and again, I go back to the quote that says a great leader lowers himself down to those that he needs to lift up. He doesn't expect you to be at his level. And that's what great leaders do. And I keep reading that, and I keep thinking to myself, again, that comment of let Cobby coach him up. That way, when I get there, they're on my level. They're ready for me. And I keep thinking of that over and over and over again. And it just seems like that set the tone for I don't have to put in the work that they do. They need to come up to my level. I'm not going down to their level. And whether that's true or not, I don't know. We're not privy to those conversations in those meeting rooms and such. I don't know. Perception becomes reality in a lot of people's mind. That for damn sure. But I don't know. I honestly don't know. But something, and I've said this for a while now, and for those of you that have listened to the program, I've said this for a long time. There is something innately wrong behind the walls of 1265. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know specifically. But there is something that is very wrong. There is a personality to this team that is segregated, that is angry, that is sad, that is down. Coming back, we're going to talk with Mike Clemens. He'll join us. Michael's going to give us his perspective. We also got our NFL picks coming up after the bottom of the hour of the next hour as well. Stay tuned. We are broadcasting live, Sunset Grill here in Pewaukee. Man, right on the lake. Beautiful place. Great night outside, too. Stay tuned. We got more coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers got the day off from practice today. Will return tomorrow. Start getting ready for the Cowboys on Sunday. The two teams heading in different directions. Dallas in the playoff mix, coming off their bye week and sitting at 6-2 with Former Packers coach Mike McCarthy leading them. Green Bay has lost 5 straight to fall 3-6 on the year. It's made for some trying times inside Lambeau Field for Coach Matt LaFleur.
It's easy when you're winning. It's easy when you're winning. But when you're not winning, it gets tough. And it can reveal a lot of things. So I think it's just important for our team to stay together and really look inward, everybody accountable to one another and trying to do the best they can.
It'll be the Packers and Cowboys on Sunday at 3:25. Turning to the Badgers, they're gearing up for the first of 3 trophy games to end their season. Game 1 this Saturday against Iowa. 2 favorites to win the Big Ten West entering the year have struggled at times, but both seem to be finding their way of late. Badgers have won 3 of their last 4 games. Iowa has won 2 in a row, as I'm both sitting a game back of Illinois for first place in the division. Kick on Saturday is set for 2:30.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
City. It's where they're going to take on the Thunder tomorrow night. Milwaukee lost for the first time this season last night in Atlanta. And after winning their opener last night, the Badgers now prepping for their game against Stanford on Friday at American Family Field as part of the Bruce City battle. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold. Look at the 8. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Welcome back. Good to have you on board. We are broadcasting live out here at Sunset Grill in Pewaukee Lake. Well, on Pewaukee Lake, next to it. Not in it, but you get what I'm saying. Good to have you on tonight. First hour, terrific. Second hour, we're going to have Mike Clemens coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned for that. Mike's going to join us, and we'll talk with him about what he saw today and obviously what he thinks may or may not happen moving forward. I mean, today you've got, a lot of little things kind of, moving around. And by that, I mean, you've got Rasul Douglas. You're going to hear Rasul Douglas coming up here in just a couple of minutes, but basically just putting it out there, just saying we suck. We suck because we suck. You've got, and we talked about it going into the top of the hour, you've got, Jeremy Fowler over at ESPN putting out a tweet that said, hey, the Packers, there's some talk behind the scenes that some guys are upset. Some of the young guys are mad at Rodgers for calling them out. The do as I say, don't do as I do type of thing. Rodgers obviously saying that he's going to put, the intestinal fortitude and the competitive spirit into everything that he does because he wants to win and wants to continue on and play well throughout the season and start to build something. But, it is what it is. In the meantime, the Green Bay Packers, as we all know, we talked about it earlier in the first hour, Jonathan Abram, via the Las Vegas Raiders, they picked him up today. They claimed him off of waivers. He was a former first-round pick, reportedly on the trade block near the trade deadline. And then he didn't get traded. They couldn't find a trade partner, so they cut him loose, and the Packers immediately picked him up. So they grabbed him today. And so we'll see if, he's able to help bolster because, Stokes is down, and we'll see if he's able to bolster the secondary for the Green Bay Packers, obviously. So we'll get into that. This one's from Williams, says, what I'm looking for out of the Green Bay Packers, I'm looking for the Packers to be ready to play. They haven't looked really ready for a while now. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. In the meantime, we bring in our guy, Mike Clemens from Green Bay. And so, Michael, I mean, so much to get to. I mean, Jeremy Fowler put out that, some guys in the locker room aren't happy with Rodgers calling them out. Then you got Rasul Douglas basically saying we suck. Rodgers wants to compete and kind of garner his inner, competitive spirit. I mean, how are things right now in Green Bay?
I hadn't seen Jeremy's report. Quite frankly, just got away from the stadium and had to take a dinner break. But but I'm not surprised by that, and it's something that we just sort of anticipated. And I think there's maybe some young guys that say, well, the quarterback's not exactly spot on either. Here's what I know about this is that both what you're going to hear in the Aaron Rodgers press conference and what you are going to hear from the organization. He doesn't know why that's there. Today, in some ways, he almost acted like, where is this coming from? Like, Aaron, we've been, you must really not be listening to the outside noise because we've been concerned about this on and off since McCarthy left. And he said pretty much what's going on right now is they are trying to come up with different plans. Because they're so challenged with injuries, inexperience, guys not being on the same page. Maybe 8 or 9 guys do well on a play, but you got 1 or 2 mental errors, whether it's a penalty or whatever, that the game plan is coming from Matt. As he said, I'm more on with the play call as it is more now than ever before. So then, Jason Wilde asked him directly, like, well, no, wait a minute. It doesn't look like the LaFleur offense. It doesn't look like if you were watching the Rams in the Super Bowl against the Bengals and Sean McVay running that Shanahan offense where the quarterback is under center and he triple fakes or jet sweep fakes, and then there's like guys running crossing patterns, and there's a tight end that's wide open, and looks almost like a circus act, and the timing is precise. They did that in 2019, the night that they beat the Bears 10-3 and kept the Bears offense off. On and on. It seems like they've gotten away from that. It looks more just like the old, frankly, McCarthy offense where Aaron Rodgers lines up and he just looks for the one-on-one match and throws the bet. He says that's not true. He said we're changing. We're trying to come up with changing game plans every week according to our personnel or what we would think. But I think sometimes that's confusing. And he said if we were running it that way in the textbook, and he says, I'm not changing plays. But he said, if we ran it that way every week, you don't want the offense to what he calls become robotic. And that's his word, like, okay, wait a minute. It's the same formation. It's the same misdirection. It's the same fakes. After a while, it gets to be a tendency, and then the linebackers can read that and shut you down. But he contends that that's not part of the problem right now.
So, Mike, let me ask you, when it comes to the play calling, I mean, Matt LaFleur has been pretty emphatic saying, look, Aaron gets a play. He goes to the line of scrimmage. He's got one of two. He can do one option or the other option. And that's pretty much it. He's not getting up to the line of scrimmage. And I believe him. Now, I don't know if Matt LaFleur would call Aaron out if Aaron was changing plays or running his own thing. But I think you only have a limited amount of plays because you have a limited amount of personnel, right?
Limited amount of personnel, limited amount of snaps, and in chemistry with some of those guys. I am trying to think how I can add more to that. In just that, my sense from LaFleur is, I'll tell you this. A month ago, you had more of an, for lack of a better phrase, an arrogant strut from Aaron Rodgers. And if you wanted to challenge in some stuff, he might throw it back in your face. Today, Bill, after a bad game against the Lions, in which he again admitted, yeah, I had a bad throw here, I had a bad throw there, but he points out, we had some good plays in that game, and we almost had a total of 400 yards offense on that thing, and we dominated the time of possession. It's just, I threw some picks in the red zone. We had a miscue there. Sammy Watkins turned in when he shouldn't have turned out. They gave away 4 or 5 touchdowns. And, the scoring has been the problem. So, I'm trying to tell you what I can. And
right.
I know more than I can say right now.
Right.
I'll give you this example. Bill, do you remember when you and I first started doing this show, that you went to a Super Bowl and then you went 15-1, And then what happened? Joe Philbin went and got that job with the Dolphins, right?
Right.
And so then you got into another part of the season, and they were struggling offensively, and everything was off. And finally, I can tell you this now on the air. I told you this off the air. He came right out to me, Rodgers did, and said, I said, would it be wrong if I said this on the air? This is, and then he said, yeah, you're right about this. You're right about this. He said, you know what? First of all, the refs right now are messing with our up-tempo offense, and we need them to get the ball back on the spot faster, and it's killing us because we want to run this up-tempo offense that McCarthy wants to go to. And then secondly, frankly, he was not crazy about Jeff Saturday at center, the guy they just hired as the head. Remember me telling you about that?
Right. I do.
And then they changed it to Evan Dietrich Smith. And then the third thing he said is, we miss Joe Philbin.
Yeah.
We miss that guy's in-game adjustments. So that was Aaron during a particular stretch where they were struggling, having just gone to the Super Bowl 10 years ago. And you wonder if those kinds of concerns are bothering him now with the situation that they're at.
I remember him telling me, and maybe us at the time, that he had said it was the little things that Joe did. He set up the room. He had a unique way of looking at things. It was almost like an offense 101, so to speak. And do you think that he's missing something like that now?
It could be. Wink, wink.
Right.
Could be.
Yeah, that's, you lose something with a guy like Nathaniel. But then again, he brought in his guy in Tom Clemens. Mike, do you think Tom Clemens is was Tom Clemens, is he helping, or is Tom Clemens just there as a sounding board?
I'm sure that Tom, has got 40, 50 years of football and NFL experience. And there's a lot of wisdom there. There's a lot of trust there, okay? You know why you bring him in? Just like James Campen. This is a guy that you can just sit on the plane with, or, come up into the team room or something. This is a guy you totally trust. So if that keeps you feeling better as the quarterback, that's fine. But they moved on from Tom Clemens in 2016. He didn't just retire. They moved on from him. McCarthy didn't bring him back. And then you got into the the Ben McAdoo era and some of that stuff.
Right.
So this wasn't LaFleur's hire. This was LaFleur say, okay, my quarterback wants me to talk to Tom. I'll meet Tom for lunch out here while I'm in L.A. during the Super Bowl 9-10 months ago. Hey, you're right. He's a very impressive guy. He's still got it, even though he's been out of football for about a year or two, selling wine and real estate out in Arizona. And they brought him in. So, it's all kinds of little things like that. These aren't huge problems, but some of these things start to stack up. Here's another thing I think was interesting. Aaron got a lot of questions today about McCarthy, and McCarthy and Rodgers are now saying, "Hey, we've been friends," and maybe when they were working together, or after McCarthy got blamed for the program getting stale, and they fired him. Rodgers. I remember Rodgers saying about a year after McCarthy had been fired that he was trying to get people to pump the brakes. Like, I didn't get this guy fired, okay? I mean, things were wrong. The front office saw it. The new GM, Brian Gutekunst, saw some things that were wrong, and they figured that they needed to make a change. And Gutekunst wanted to essentially go out and get his own head coach, okay? Because he worked for a year with McCarthy. So we see that the friendship with McCarthy and Rodgers has continued. And then today Rodgers is talking about the one time where, he went over to McCarthy's house. It was in December. It was close to Christmas. They're having a couple of, was it Iron City? Is that a beer from Pittsburgh or whatever?
Yeah.
But these guys broke down crying because they both realized, from Chico and from that bar in Pittsburgh, how lucky these guys were to have the run that they'd had so far. So this is a very close relationship. And then the next thing someone talked about, how did you improve as a quarterback under McCarthy? And he said, well, we started meeting on Thursdays. And I thought, wait a minute, I think I broke this story.
Right.
And you and I hadn't talked about it in 10 years. And then and it took me 2 or 3 hours to remember this. I said, I swear that Bill and I were the first ones to talk about that thing. And then it clicked. When we went to Super Bowl and we went upstairs and we talked to some of the guys from the networks, and Rich Gannon was there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the former, Raiders quarterback and Chiefs quarterback. Rich Gannon was close with McCarthy. McCarthy got him in to do the preseason games for the Packers television network. And we're talking to Rich Gannon about a year or two after the Super Bowl. Oh yeah, I think things are great between Mike and Aaron now than ever before. He said that Aaron went to him after the 2009 season. You remember when they lost in the playoffs to the Cardinals in that high scoring game?
Right.
He said Aaron went to the coach and said, I call and I don't understand why. And I need more of your time. So it was McCarthy said, okay, you know what? When do you want to come? It's 3:00 on Thursdays. And those guys would get together for sometimes a couple hours. Rodgers said sometimes they would meet for the rest of the night and just talk about life. But those two got closer then, and within a year and a half, they won the Super Bowl. And that was the peak, the good years with those two. And I remember Rich Gannon was the one and no one else had or heard that story. I think in one way because McCarthy didn't want people thinking that he was overly favoring the quarterback or their other positions.
Mike, before I let you go, I did want to ask about this upcoming game. Is there any scenario that you can see the Packers kind of shocking the world and knocking off the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday?
Nope. Sorry. No. I've been racking my brain for 2 days on that. I don't see it coming. I said to Aaron today, listen, man, I know you know all this stuff about sports psychology and manifestation of goals and all this stuff. But watching you running around on the carpet there at Ford Field trying to get first downs and everything, I'm thinking maybe he's pressing. And when you start pressing, particularly where he's at in his career, you start having a slump and you start throwing balls into the dirt. He took practice off today, so maybe the thumb continues to bother him, and nobody's really making that an issue. And he said, I'm telling you, I just know I expect of myself, but I do that all the time. I feel that that's what I'm supposed to do. That's the way they play. That's the way I'm supposed to lead, is to go out of my way to do whatever it takes to win. And I don't think that that's pushing me into the area of pressing or, even to the point of slumping where my accuracy is off, my footwork is off. He claims that that's not the situation. But those last 4 plays against Detroit, where he was just taking shots in the end zone, and said, I'm talking to some of the other guys today, like, Pete Doherty. I mean, they agree. It's like, what was with those play calls? He goes, I know, right? There was no system to how they could have advanced the ball and get it to maybe a first and goal or whatever. They just took 4 shots and they missed on all 4 of them and lost the game. And, ridiculous. So it's messed up on all kinds of different levels right now.
Mike, great stuff as always. Appreciate it, man. And we will talk again on Friday, okay?
Talk to you then, Bill. Thanks.
Thanks, pal. There you go. Some interesting stuff from Mike Clemens. I do remember that. I do remember him talking about that. We talked about that Aaron needed to sit down with Mike, needed to go over the plays, needed to kind of become more comfortable, more familiar, more in tune, talking about a guy that wants to be on, a quote, the same page with his head coach back then. It's amazing how that relationship that was so good and became so strong then began to reportedly, allegedly, sour so much, so Austin asks, hey, do you still think that heads will roll if the Packers get blown out this weekend? I don't think heads will roll. What I would say is, would it be reminiscent of, let's say they get blown out by Mike McCarthy coming back and this team just looks awful, and the only way heads are going to roll. Let me do this. I'm going to take a break and I'll come back and I'll answer that question before we get to the bottom of the hour and we get into our picks for throughout the rest of the NFL. So hang in there, which is a good question, a good ask, Austin, over on the Bud Light live stream. Stay tuned. So we're broadcasting live. We're at Sunset Grill. We're here in on Pewaukee Lake, right next to it. Outside, beautiful, nice night out, a little bit of a breeze. The patio's been open. They had the umbrellas open a little bit earlier. It's just one of those. It's one of the last nights that you're going to get tonight and tomorrow, and that's it. After that, here comes fall and winter, big time, punching you right in the grill, kicking you right in the cup, so to speak. So stay tuned. We got a lot more. This is brought to you by our good friends over there at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Stay tuned. We got more after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. Well, it's good to have you today. Good stuff. Broadcasting live out here at Sunset Grill, Pewaukee, next to Pewaukee Lake. Glad to have you on board tonight. Beautiful night tonight, as I was mentioning before. We are brought to you by our good friends over there at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. And talking earlier, Austin asked, hey, do you still think heads are going to roll if indeed the Packers get blown out this weekend? The only way heads roll, and I've kind of said this before, but I wanted to go over it. The only way heads roll is if they get blown out, and not only do they get blown out, but they get blown out and they look as if they quit. Maybe they quit on the coach. Maybe they quit on each other. If that happens, then I can say, okay, I can see that. I can see maybe you got to make a change at that point, you know. But otherwise, no, I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I mean, I know some people really want to see some heads roll. I think that's where maybe you and I differ a little bit. I would love to see this coaching staff and this group be able to work this out. Now, there's going to be changes come the offseason. There's no doubt about it, okay? But I don't think they make mass changes or fire the head coach or fire Brian Gutekunst or fire Russ Ball or anything unless this team just quits. If they quit, then you got to fire the head coach. At that point, you would have to. But otherwise, I don't think it happens. I don't know if that's what you wanted to hear or not, but I don't think it happens. The ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, this was from Jason, who said, can you tell us what was actually reported today? ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported that the, quote, criticism of the receivers, quote, does not sit well, end quote, given Aaron Rodgers' decision not to attend voluntary offseason training sessions. Green Bay's offense lacked chemistry all season, Rodgers rising from the back-to-back MVPs to one of the worst starting quarterback ratings in football. Rodgers currently ranks 27th among the starters in QBR, and his 7 interceptions are already the most he's had in a full season since 2016. No Packers wideout is currently on track to even hit 1,000 yards receiving this year. Allen Lazard leads the team with 427 on 30 catches, but he's been far from a consistently reliable target. Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson have been dealing with injuries and haven't played particularly well on the field. And while there may be some merit to criticizing Rodgers for skipping the OTAs, the Packers had an entire training camp and more than 2 months of the regular season to fix things. They scored 9 points against Detroit on Sunday. Much of the fault here lies at the feet of the front office, who acted without a clear plan for how he might be replaced by, or how they might replace Devontae Adams. The Packers had a couple of first-round picks, selected a pair of defensive players before betting on Christian Watson at the top of the second round. And it's fair to wonder whether or not the front office should have used one or both of those picks to go, say, get Chris Olave or a Garrett Wilson. Watson has always been a project, having played in the FCS North Dakota State, and Rodgers turns 39 in December. He's not exactly the patient timeline right now. Regardless, after further silence from Lambeau at the close, it's clear that the offensive misfires were mostly at the feet of the folks making the roster decisions and not the guys on the field. Interesting. So it's not sitting well. Okay. But beyond that, this is pretty spot on. Now, there's different reports and different sources and different chronicles that are writing the story now around this. But just going back to the rumor, and again, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe. To be honest with you, I don't know whether guys are. I think, put it this way, I think winning is the ultimate deodorant. It masks all the stink that's going on inside a locker room. And now that things are really bad, I think guys are just starting to talk. They're saying this is bad, that's bad, this sucks, that's Ben, do you have what Rasul Douglas had to say earlier today?
Yeah.
This is what when Rasul Douglas was being asked about the season and where they're at right now, this is what Rasul Douglas had to say. Take a listen to this.
That's what you're asking. And then we suck because we suck. It ain't got nothing to do with London. Nah. It's just we not executing. We keep doing the same thing every week. Play 2 halves of football, never 4. And that's just how it's been. Up on the Giants, 20, whatever, lost. The Jets, we did good, lost. So it's just, this game, we keep playing 2 halves. Last week, Buffalo. Second half, we played great. First half, trash. Last week, same thing. And it's just, it has to come to where we can play more than 2 quarters. And this year we have it.
So there's what he had to say. He said, it's been a half. We played 2 quarters. We don't play a full game. We look good in the first half. We suck in the second half. We look good in the second half, but we've sucked in the first half. He said we suck because we suck. And then he said because we're making the exact same mistakes. The exact same mistakes. Think about that. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. The exact same mistakes. Now, here's the thing that I want to reiterate, okay? In that sense, and I'm not putting all of this at the feet of Matt LaFleur or Joe Barry or what have you, but when you got a guy coming out and saying, we are making the exact same mistakes, do you look at that and go, you know what, that's coaching? If you're doing the same thing over and over and over again and you can't figure it out, then your coaches aren't getting through to you. Or have you lost guys along the way? Guys aren't listening to you. Guys aren't taking what you have to say to heart. So interesting stuff from Rasul Douglas inside the locker room a little bit earlier today. All right, let's do this. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to start to look around the rest of the NFL, start making some picks, because we got a whole bunch to go. This weekend, you've got the Ravens, the Bengals, the Patriots, and the Jets all on bye this week. Everybody else is in action, and you got some good games on the docket, some really good games, specifically in the NFC North. So we're going to pay attention to a couple of those. But, yes, sirree, we've got some good games on the docket coming up this weekend. We are broadcasting live at Sunset Grill in Pewaukee. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle, brought to you by our good friends at Bud Light, coming up right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program, the Bill Michaels Huddle. We are broadcasting live. We're out here in Pewaukee. Pewaukee Lake, as a matter of fact. Sunset Grill, Pewaukee. And you can see some of the pictures of this place over on my Facebook page and over on the Instagram and such, and even over on Twitter if you follow me. Thanks to all of you watching on the Bud Light live stream as well. Time now to start taking a look around the rest of the NFL. You've got some games coming up. One come tomorrow night. An awful game. I don't even know how I can get up to really sit and watch this thing. You know, I love football. Don't get me wrong. This one's terrible. Other than the fact that maybe the Falcons on the road, you kind of root for the Falcons after all the, all the crap that they've gone through with Matt Ryan since the loss of that Super Bowl in ugly fashion after that dramatic comeback by the New England Patriots, and they haven't really been anything since. Maybe it's time for them to rise back up, but the Falcons on the road to take on the Carolina Panthers. And, Ben, this is not a hot game by any stretch of the imagination. But just because I'm going to take the Falcons to get the win, and only for the fact that I really like Arthur Blank as well as an owner. I like him.
Yeah, Bill, I feel for my guy Herbie here. I don't know. Al Michaels kind of sold out and took the Amazon money. He might deserve the fact that all the games suck now, but my guy Herbie deserves better than having to call these disasters.
Yeah.
I did you see how the Falcons lost last week to the Chargers? Probably the only team ever to out-Charger the Chargers,
right,
where they intercepted a ball and then fumbled it without being touched back to the team. For no reason, really, that doesn't have to do with my pick, but I think the Panthers win. Maybe they stoop down to the Panthers level. Baker Mayfield probably back at quarterback.
There you have it. Seahawks. This is Germany. They're heading over to Germany, not to London, but to Germany. The 6-3 Seahawks. Now, didn't think this would be any kind of a game at when the schedule first came out, but the Seahawks at 6-3 surprisingly are taking on the 4-5. Just got a much needed win. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are trying to keep their hopes alive. I think Seattle's the better team, but it seems like that was still a really bad and kind of ugly game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So as much as they kind of got up on that, there's going to be this interest from German fans in Tom Brady, who's coming there, and they're kind of showcasing him. I kind of think the Seahawks are going to win this one just because I believe they're the better team. I'm going to go with the Seahawks in Germany to knock off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I'm with you. I'm all in on Geno Smith. I'm all in on Kenneth Walker. The only thing that's giving me pause is I wonder if a trip to Germany could be good for Brady, given, all that's gone on. And he did look like prime Brady at the end of that Rams game, despite what his wide receivers couldn't really do for him. I'm going to take the Seahawks to win. I just wonder if Brady in a different country without stuff that's gone on at home maybe is freed up a bit.
You've got this is a good one. The 7-1 Minnesota Vikings on the road. They are in Buffalo to take on the 6-2 Buffalo Bills, who got beat by the Jets, looked bad, like they had already won the Super Bowl. Maybe that was their slap in the face moment. I'm going to take the Bills at home to knock off the Vikings in a close one, maybe by 3-4 points, something to that effect. But I'm going to take the Bills at home to beat the Vikings on the road.
Josh Allen is dealing with a UCL injury, actually, Bill. I wonder what would have happened if he had been pulled in the 6th inning instead of having him go further, or a Bryce Harper level arm injury. But with Schefter doing the Kirk Cousins thing, I can't pick the Vikings. I cannot let that, whatever's happening, I cannot let that continue. So if it's Case Keenum, I'll still take the Bills.
I cannot, Adam Schefter, he's like 5'5". And I can't get that vision out of my head. Another NFC North game that I would just, out of sheer maybe interest of embarrassment, I guess, would pay attention to. The Lions, who were flying high after they knocked off the Green Bay Packers, are taking on the 3-6 Chicago Bears in Chicago. Now, Chicago has been giddy over their last 2 losses because they believe Justin Fields is the real deal, and here we go, and Chase Claypool's going to make him better, and all they need now is an offensive line, and they're going to be really, really good. The Lions are going to be kind of feisty now that they've got a win under their belt, but I still think the Lions are just bad. And that secondary is going to have all kinds of problems trying to contain Justin Fields. Justin Fields, especially at home, I think he runs wild. I think the Bears get the win. I think the Bears get the win by 7 or more.
Here we go, Bill. You know what they say about Ohio State quarterbacks? They always succeed in the NFL. All jokes aside, I mean, he has been great. They've finally decided to help him a little bit. I've loved what Fields has been able to do. You wonder if the Lions have a little false sense of confidence after Rodgers hands them the ball 3 times, twice on the goal line. Yep. I'm going to take the Bears. I like what I'm seeing. The defense still sucks. They traded away their players, but I'm all in on Fields.
Yeah, this could end up being I think the Bears score. I just don't think they can stop what Goff and company are going to do, but I just think that the Bears are able to score more. So that's the reason I'm taking the Bears. Meantime, you got Kansas City at home. The 3-6 Jaguars are coming into KC into Arrowhead. I don't see any way in which the Jaguars get a win. So I'm going to take Kansas City in a runaway at Arrowhead on Sunday.
Yeah, tough situation at Clemson these days, Bill. Pretty clear that Trevor Lawrence kind of covered a lot of the warts there, especially offensively, staff-wise, and who they decide to hire. Now that he's gone, realizing that their offense is kind of anemic. I don't think that really leads the Jaguars to cover, though. I think the Chiefs big.
The Browns at 3-5, the Dolphins at 6-3. Tua this week, I think it was today, a little bit earlier, as a matter of fact, was asked about the Super Bowl. And normally you don't talk about it. He said, no, we're not shying away from it. It's a topic that we want to have a conversation about because we believe we're a good football team. And that's our goal. So if you want to talk about the Super Bowl, let's talk about the Super Bowl. I like the attitude. It's like he's got a new life, a new swagger, and he's actually become a real quarterback now, Tua. And I didn't think he'd ever really amount to much, but you give him Tyreek Hill, who is all world, and suddenly he looks great because Tyreek Hill can go up and pull any ball down. I'm going to take the Dolphins at home to beat the hell out of the Browns.
Here we go, Bill. This is my game of the week. So big news recently in the grocery store business with Kroger, Ohio's own Kroger, founded there hundreds of years ago. And Albertsons are merging and trying to sell it as this great thing for the consumer. Really, it's just a money grab for the people up top. It's crushing the consumer. The food's going to go up. They're going to have food deserts. It's going to be a disaster for people that frequent those grocery stores. So it's terrible news. I'm taking the Dolphins big.
And then before we go to break, you've got the Texans 1-6-1. They're on the road taking on the Giants in the Meadowlands. I'm going to take the Giants to get the win. But Saquon Barkley, at what point if you start looking at, a guy like a Tyreek Hill, and then you start looking at, Tua and, Lamar Jackson and obviously Patrick Mahomes, and you start to look at these guys for MVP candidacy, at what point do you look at Barkley and say, you know what? You're the offense. You're the guy that's doing it. You're catching passes. You're running the football. You're the guy that the offense runs through. At what point, as a 6-2 team, do you say Saquon Barkley should be considered for the MVP? I'm going to take the Giants at home to run over the Houston Texans.
Yeah, not thrilled with the city of Houston these days for very obvious reasons. I'll take the Giants large.
There you go. Let's do this. Second half of games, including the Packers at home against the Cowboys. That is upcoming. We are broadcasting live out here in Pewaukee, next to Pewaukee Lake. It's, as a matter of fact, the Sunset Grill Pewaukee is where you can find us. And a really good crowd tonight. It's been a crowd that's pretty much hung out with us all night, and they have rotated the tables a couple times, but still people coming in saying hi during the commercial break. So good stuff. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. We are broadcasting live via the Bill Michaels Huddle. We are out here at Sunset Grill in Pewaukee Lake, and I am telling you, I'm fascinated. I'm sitting here. Ben sent me a link that there is a police chase out in L.A. There's a shocker. But this person has stolen multiple vehicles. He goes from one to the next to the next to the next. He's stolen 4 vehicles now. And the police are still in hot pursuit. The choppers are following this guy everywhere he goes. He's hit numerous cars. He's hit guardrails. And so I'm fascinated to see how this thing ends, even though we've got the rest of our show to do. But, yeah, that's wild, man, watching this thing. Watching it live at this point. He's cutting everybody off. He doesn't care. He's going to end up in a drink or something before it's all said and done. Let's do this.
I'll tweet out the link.
Yeah, tweet out the link. So if you want to follow it, go ahead and do so. If you're following us on Twitter. So, almost hit a couple of cars head on. Let's do this. Let's get back at it. You've got the New Orleans Saints sitting at 3-6, heading up into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh sitting at 2-6 on the season. Pittsburgh's struggling. They are a team right now, top 5 when it comes to the NFL draft. They've struggled quarterback-wise in so many different facets. They've been banged up defensively. The Saints on the road, I don't know what to think. It's kind of a tale of 2 really bad teams. But I'm going to take the Saints on the road to get this win.
Yeah, it's interesting since the Steelers normally a really good home team. Obviously, team-wide, they're not very good. They're 1-2 since they changed the name from Heinz Field. Makes you think. I think the Steelers win this one. I'm out on Andy Dalton as Saints starter. Yeah. I just all their moves this offseason didn't really make sense. Their roster isn't good enough. They got to figure out quarterback. So I think the Steelers find a win. I think Kenny finds a win here.
You've got the Broncos 3-5 taking on the Titans at 5-3. Broncos on the road in Nashville. I'll tell you this, just when you start to kind of count them out, here they come again. And you've also got Derrick Henry, who is beginning to run wild again. Broncos defense, not that good. Russell Wilson, not scoring points. It is an abysmal offense. I'm going to take the Titans at home and a pardon the pun, runaway.
And they will avenge a tough loss from the Volunteers on Saturday as they fell to Georgia. I will also take Tennessee.
There you go. Also, we have got the Colts with a new head coach. The Colts at 3-5-1 going into Las Vegas to take on the Raiders, who are sitting at 2-6. I'm going to say Jeff Saturday, the scatterbrained Jeff Saturday, and I don't say that in the sense that he's not a good coach. It's just that he's never coached before. He's just going in and trying to rah-rah the guys. He's going to get them fired up. They're going to win this game. And Devontae Adams is going to be holding his hands out going, what the hell's happening? So I'll take the Colts to get the win on the road against the Raiders.
Oh, God. Jeff Saturday even tweeted last week, Bill, that the Raiders stink when he was still an ESPN employee. Right? I cannot see any way this succeeds. Jim Irsay is all pumped up because he finally is a head coach that won't listen to analytics, which I just think he's trying to find the least informed person possible for the job. And I love Jeff Saturday, but yeah, hasn't coached. I cannot see them winning this game.
I liked it that he said, I wanted to find somebody that was a winning coach that had championship coaching experience, and then went on and on and on, and then went, oh, by the way, he doesn't have any of that. I love Jeff Saturday. So I thought that was kind of funny. It was like, did somebody just give Jim Irsay a breathalyzer before he went to the podium? Because he was out of it. Then you got the Cardinals, 3-6, taking on the Rams, 3-5. It's a battle of attrition between these two teams. Rams got to get right at home. Just because Kyler Murray wanted all the money, he did all his bitching, he did all his whining, and he has not done anything since. It has been a disaster. I'm taking the Rams at home to get the win in this one.
Yeah, I don't really know where this police chase is happening, but I can say that the winning Powerball was found in California near UCLA, which I guess is near where the Rams play. I don't know. It's all sprawling for me. I'm going to take the Rams.
I am fascinated by this police chase and the fact that he just did a turnaround in a cul-de-sac and the police would not block the street. So now they're turning around while he's flying down the street. There you go. He's on his way. He's rounding around. What? This is live
play-by-play of this would do great ratings.
We need Kevin Harlan is what we need right now. That's where we would need Kevin Harlan. Somebody go ahead and you got a cop coming down the street. Something's going to run into one another right here. Here's it all coming to a head. Nope, he's just going to drive around. And boy, the police are all over this thing, aren't they? She's doing a hell of a job there. What was the old thing that they said in Smokey and the Bandit? You guys couldn't, this zip up in a men's room. You got the Chargers at 5-3, the 49ers at 4-4. Chargers on the road. I'm not taking them. I'm taking the 49ers at home to get the win.
I wonder how the 49ers respond to this car chase in their backyard. I'm going to take the Chargers.
Oh, my goodness. And then you got the Washington Commanders, who are about to be outed tomorrow. And just things are just horrifically wrong. They're taking on the Eagles. Monday Night Football. The Eagles are going to go to 9-0. The Commanders are going to be lucky to have a team after tomorrow.
I echo everything. There's no way you turn around and win. They're trashing their 23-year-old running back who got shot in a carjacking.
Right.
Like, what in the world are you doing as an organization where you're stooping to that level for whatever PR, lack of hit? You're going to get crushed tomorrow. I can't imagine them winning the game because the Eagles are good, but I hope for the sake of the players that ownership is gone tomorrow.
Tomorrow, and if you're wondering what's going on, tomorrow is the day that the D.C. Attorney General is going to make a major announcement in the case against Daniel Snyder and the Washington Commanders. The Commanders then throw out there, hey, we got a guy that was shot earlier this year in broad daylight. Why don't you go chase him down instead of us? Which I can't believe they're using him in that sense, but nevertheless. In the meantime, this car chase out in California we're paying attention to as this guy has stolen a pickup truck, like a utility pickup truck. He is now right now, he's either hit the stop sticks or something. It looks like it was a landscaping truck because that is a weed eater that is hanging out the back of the truck. The weed eater's flying off. I don't know if it's going to make a difference for the oncoming police cars chasing him, but he is throwing sparks like crazy at this point. There's a lot of smoke coming out of the tail end. Usually on the it looks to be on the driver's side as more and more and more sparks fly out from underneath the vehicle. This guy eventually is going to have to abandon that vehicle and take off on foot, and he's going to have a lot of the LAPD trail after him. In the meantime, we go to Green Bay. You've got the Packers hosting the Cowboys. Packers 3-6, Cowboys 6-2. I don't think there's any way in hell the Green Bay Packers win this game. I think it looks bad. I don't think heads are going to roll, but I think the Cowboys. I would not be surprised if Mike McCarthy runs it up, but I think the Packers are going to lose 35-10. 35-10. I'm going to take the Packers to get their brains beat in by the Cowboys. Micah Parsons is going to have a field day. They don't have anybody to throw to. The secondary of the Cowboys is really good, and their run-stuffing capability is awful. They've lost their linebackers between Zeke Elliott and Pollard. They're going to run wild. I think this thing's going to be a blowout. It's going to be ugly. The weather's going to be nasty. I think the Packers take a beat down in this thing.
I have a piece of good news, Bill.
Yes.
I am known to be very wrong when it comes to picks, and I echo every thought you just had.
Okay.
So me feeling this way could mean the Packers come make it a game, or at least history has told us that. But, Bill, I was there in Madison when Brett came back October 1st with Illinois and just demolished the Badgers. It was depressing. Like, the vibes in the stadium were terrible. It obviously ended up marking the end of the Paul Chryst era. This game just gives me the same vibes. And we'll see what it's like on game day. But entering, this just feels like a disaster scenario for the Packers. I think the Cowboys win easily.
By the way, this police chase out in L.A., as it continues on with this pickup truck, this utility truck, we're watching it live. The guy has lost the the driver's side front tire is gone. He's running on rims right now, still doing anywhere between 60 and 75 miles an hour, eluding the police, driving side to side on the road. And I wish like heck we had, more sparks flying out from underneath that vehicle. I wish like heck we had Kevin Harlan with us, because Kevin would be absolutely positively dynamite on the call. And as this truck continues to try to inch its way through the hills of California, the police in hot pursuit, sparks flying behind this gentleman. Eventually he is going to have to pull over somewhere. Then they're going to either let the dogs off on him, or they're going to go ahead and just tackle this guy and get him down. But he has been going for about the last 20 minutes now. Out in California in this high-speed pursuit. This has been fantastic. What a way to end the night. That's it. Time for us to get out of here.